Trauma is the effect of an experience that's perceived to be life-threatening or life-changing in some way. It's typically something that was unexpected or a situation that you had no power or control to stop. It's not defined by scope or hierarchy. There's no sort of rules about what's allowed to be traumatic or not. Something that's traumatic to one person might not be to someone else. And it really just depends on your own sort of lived experience up until that point, as well as your support systems afterwards, whether or not something gets sort of integrated into your being as a trauma. Triggers we hear a lot about because we often hear about like trigger warnings, and it usually has to do with sort of an overall topic, right? So if you've been sexually assaulted, then a trigger warning might be, we're about to talk about sexual assault. But the thing about triggers is that they usually have more to do with the five senses. And so they're often related to things that were going on during the experience of trauma. So for example, it could be the song that was playing while you were being assaulted, or the smell of bacon because someone cooked bacon for you the morning after a traumatic experience. Triggers are things that cause really visceral reactions and intense feelings of fear, panic, and a lack of safety. And so some people are really aware of their triggers and they're able to manage them really well. But then sometimes triggers might come out of nowhere and totally take the person by surprise, and they're not really sure why they're having that reaction. And the thing is so trauma changes the brain. All of your sort of executive functionings, your ability to plan things, to memorize things, concentration, problem solving, that all happens in the neocortex, this sort of front part of your brain. And during a traumatic situation, or a situation in which survival is really what's important, blood flows away from that part of your brain because, being able to do math is not important to surviving most of the time. And it flows towards your limbic system and your brainstem, and those are the systems that are responsible for survival, right? That's where you do sort of that fight, flight, freeze. And afterwards, it can take time to sort of be able to reboot and get that higher functioning back online. And by time, I mean like months to years. Because trauma, it changes the way your brain works. And that isn't to say that that's like a permanent change, because of neuroplasticity, we know that brains are really amazing, and they can heal from experiences, from trauma. But it takes a lot of work, and so there is a significant impact on brain function often in the aftermath of a traumatic experience. And so being trauma informed means that you recognize that trauma could be playing a role even if you're not explicitly aware of any trauma. And so it's a way of sort of designing and implementing support services that acknowledges trauma reactions and tries to meet people where they're at, rather than sort of forcing people to fit into a certain mold or check off certain boxes before being eligible for services. There are 4 principles of trauma-informed practice, and so I'm going to go through those with you. The first principle is the awareness of the realities of trauma, recognizing how trauma can look. Trauma can impact people's behavior. It can make people quick to anger and seem irrational. It can make people really sort of nervous and fidgety. There's no one way that a trauma reaction can look, and so recognizing that. The second is the emphasis on safety and trustworthiness. So that's both between individuals, so you and a potential trauma survivor, as well as between them and the system or institution or organization that you represent. The third is using strengths-based and skill-building approaches, so focusing on things that they can do rather than things that they can't do. And that also includes reframing certain things to find the strength. And so an example of that might be, someone says they keep going back to their abusive partner and they feel really, really stupid because of that, because they know that their partner is abusive and that they're not going to change. A reframing of that situation could be that it's not that they're stupid, it's that they have so much hope. And hope is actually a strength, and that's something that you can hold on to and really try to focus on. And then the fourth principle of trauma-informed practice is creating opportunities for choice, collaboration, and connection. So recognizing that they're the experts of their own experience, that you may understand more about systems or support services that are available, but ultimately they know what's best for them, and what's best for them may be different from what would be best for you in a similar situation, and that's okay. So recognizing that.